Should you be going for these raid weapons? Are they worth your time? Are the craftable rolls worth your time? Keep in mind, guys, there's also going to be a master mode version of the raid, which means everything you're going to be seeing on today's list, there will be an in-depth version, making these weapons even nastier. With that being said, though, let's go over everything that is dropping from this raid. First, you've got Necrochasm, which is the exotic auto rifle. We did an entire video breakdown of that weapon, including the guide for those that did not get that exotic during contest mode. Yes, it is a grind, and hopefully Bungie does let up on the Oversoul drop rates. We also have the scout rifle, Fang of Ir Yut, the machine gun, Fang of Ir Yut, the shotgun, Swordbreaker, the hand cannon, Word of Crota, the auto rifle, Defiant, and the pulse rifle, Oversoul Edict. Now, the only weapon we have actually reviewed so far has been Oversoul, outside, of course, Necrochasm. This pulse rifle reminded me so much of Grasp of Malak. That was a pulse rifle back in D1 and was meta for a very long time, and it wasn't until Clever Dragon became the meta that Bungie went and actually nerfed rapid fire and pulse rifles. Keep in mind, though, the only reason why they didn't nerf Grasp is because not many people had the God roll, so it didn't stand out nearly as much as Clever Dragon when Salaman himself was literally giving away the God roll for that weapon. Now, the traits you can get on Oversoul includes, in that third column, Enlighten Action, Eye of the Storm, Eddy Current, Perpetual Motion, Demolitionist, Encore, and Keep Away. In that fourth and final column, you have Moving Target, Swashbuckler, High Ground, Adrenaline Junkie, Sword Logic, Volt Shot, and Head Seeker. Now, the role that we chose for PvP is Head Seeker and Keep Away. That trait combination is so deadly. We've utilized it on Philotatic Spiral, and now we see it here, but on a rapid fire pulse, which is making Oversoul my #1 pick out of all of the raid weapons for PvP weapons. Now, for PvE players, Volt Shot has a very interesting interaction, simply because the origin trait found on these weapons allows you to spawn that cursed throw explosion upon landing a melee kill. So like a legendary version of Necrochasm, just not as lethal. You know, Necrochasm has the ability to do those chain curse throw reactions that could clear a room. But if you actually utilize Volt Shot with Oversoul, you can get that. Volt Shot will synergize with Oversoul, allowing for the distribution of that jolt damage and the curse throw explosion damage, which yes, does some very good AoE damage. With that being said, though, it's mainly good against weaker enemies. Not necessarily something I was just jumping up about when you happen to be under-leveled, which is pretty much everything when it comes to in-game PvE content. What I want to steer my PvE players to is actually Sword Logic. The damage here from Sword Logic, look at these numbers. ×1, ×2, ×3. Look at the duration values. These are all fantastic damage values. And I would actually advise PvE players, if you so wish to rock a 540 round per minute pulse rifle inside of PvE, to give Sword Logic a go here. I know Volt Shot has the kabloomies, but the role that I would choose for PvE would have to include Sword Logic. Now, moving on, we have Defiant. What a beautiful auto rifle, right? Defiant, though, has come to us as a 360 round per minute auto rifle. It also deals solar damage. It's got a healthy amount of range. Its third column has Pugilist, Enlighten Action, Hill Clip, Zen Moment, Subsistence, Outlaw, and Reconstruction. For your fourth column, you have Eye of the Storm, Collective Action, Swashbuckler, Incandescent, Kill Clip, Sword Logic, and Target Lock. Now, this is not the first 360 with Target Lock. If you actually remember the Last Wish raid auto rifle, Age of Bond, you could get Target Lock on that weapon as well, and that is a 360, but a void weapon. Now, if you notice the range changes here lately inside of PvP, a lot of things have changed. Auto rifles really are performing much, much better. And Defiant, with the right roll, can definitely slap. For that first column, guys, I think for PvP players, Zen Moment all day long. And if you're a mouse and keyboard player that's holding your nose up at Zen Moment, keep in mind, Zen Moment actually works for mouse and keyboard players now. Like back when, it didn't actually work for mouse and keyboard players. But I can tell you from personal experience, Zen Moment is a great play, whether you're a controller player or a mouse and keyboard player. Now, in that final column, there's a lot of different routes you can go, guys. You could still roll with Target Lock. Granted, I need to do some testing on Target Lock to see where it sits, considering it did get nerfed, but it still offers forgiveness on weapons like Immortal, which is why Immortal with Target Lock was still the God roll post post-nerf. I'm not really sure where it sits for things like 360 round per minute autos. Normally for this archetype though, it doesn't necessarily speed up the time to kill value, but instead allows one of your shots to be a body shot instead of a crit shot. So again, more forgiveness. You also have kill clip, which is really good. Now I know a question a lot of people are asking, despite in my opinion, this perk being primarily a PvE perk, how is sword logic inside of PvP? Now listen, I know we just briefly talked about it with Oversoul Edict, but this perk states that final blows with this weapon grant bonus damage, and the strength and duration of the bonus increases when more powerful targets are defeated. Now keep in mind guys, this is similar to Rampage, but not exactly the same, as in depending on the enemy you defeat, this will set the stack of sword logic, and simply getting more kills will refresh that timer, but will still maintain that percentage stack. Now this also means you will get a higher tier damage bonus from killing higher tier enemies. The beautiful thing is that you can refresh that timer by killing anything and still maintain that higher tier depending on what you killed. Now inside of PvE, the first stack of sword logic is a 15% damage buff that lasts for 5 seconds. 2 stacks, it's a 25% damage buff, which lasts for 7 seconds. 3 stacks is the 35% damage buff, which lasts for 10 seconds. And at 4 stacks, it's a 50% damage buff, which lasts for 15 seconds. Now, these are the tier of enemies you have to get a kill on in order to proc those stacks of sword logic. This is obviously easier on some weapons than others. With that being said though, is sword logic something we could utilize inside of PvP? You actually can. Getting Guardian kills is actually a tad bit different, as a single Guardian kill will grant you 2 stacks of sword logic. Now the damage percentage is slightly different here, sitting at 20% rather than 25%. Now if you kill a player while they're in their super, this will grant you 3 stacks of sword logic, but this is a 30% buff instead of 35%. Regardless though, this is definitely a perk you can utilize in both areas. The main thing is that the duration buff there being 7 seconds at 2 stacks is really nice, which is longer than like base kill clip, rampage, etc. Now for my PvE players, I can't help but look at heal clip. It's a new trait, and it states that reloading after dealing a final blow grants cure to you and nearby allies. Now I know we have an entire archetype of auto rifle coming that's going to be like a support style weapon. We're literally shooting your teammates, we'll heal them. But this is also another way to play support. And you can imagine something like this with kill clip. When you reload, you not only buff your damage with kill clip, but you're also healing your teammates. Now for just the weapon itself, you've got sword logic, which could synergize beautifully here with subsistence. If you can imagine just getting that high tier kill and then just proceed to just lay everything to waste, this is also very good. Incandescent is also present on this weapon guys, which is also a good one to snag. Now moving on, Word of Crota. This is a hand cannon, void, and a precision frame. A 180 round per minute hand cannon that a lot of people are gonna overlook. Let me just say guys, this hand cannon's pretty good. Now somebody immediately jumped to the stream and said, Word of Crota is OG Luna's Howl not forgotten. And that's because of the perk Precision Instrument. This is also a new perk, which states that weapon hits grant a stack of Precision Instrument for 1.25 seconds, the maximum of 6 stacks. Now that precision buff is roughly a 4%, a little more than 4% at each stack. So can you get the 3-tap off with this weapon? If you chain enough precision shots, you can. But by no means is this thing OG Luna's Howl not forgotten. I mean, come on guys. Pre-nerf Luna's Howl and not forgotten could literally 2-tap. We are not there. But what you want to get here is the ability to 3-tap, which you can, but there's not a lot of forgiveness there, guys. And keep in mind, that's chaining precision shots, and depending on your lobby inside of PvP, most fights are concluded by the time you get enough precision shots chained. Now, just a brief overview of the column perks. Third column, you have Subsistence, Rangefinder, Killing Wind, Dragonfly, Repulsor Brace, Inline Action, and Demolitionist. In that fourth column, you have Focus Fury, Precision Instrument, Frenzy, Sword Logic, Rampage, Destabilizing Rounds, and Adrenaline Junkie. Personally, guys, I think Sword Logic is just too good. I think that is the perk to go for PvE players. You could do a Sword Logic Dragonfly combo, which is also really good. Subsistence is also present on this weapon. And considering you can play into that origin trait, proccing Sword Logic is really easy on pretty much all these weapons, but something you can easily accomplish with Word of Crota. Now, moving on, we have Swordbreaker. This is a shotgun, a lightweight frame, and I've already used it a few times inside of PvP. In its third column, it has Pugilist, Subsistence, Elemental Capacitor, Fragile Focus, Threat Detector, Slide Shot, and Demolitionist. In its fourth column, it has Surrounded, Golden Tricorn, Sword Logic, 1-2 Punch, Opening Shot, Barrel Constrictor, and Hatchling. Now, Barrel Constrictor is a new trait this season. Let's state that final blows with this weapon reduces the projectile spread of its next shot for a short duration. Definitely a perk we need to do some testing on. Reminds me of like Shot Package, but instead kill activated. Now, whether or not it actually extends the kill range of the weapon, we're gonna have to actually test that. Now, you remember I said the origin trait on this weapon is really good, and it's also pretty easy to proc on all of these guns. For Swordbreaker with the right roll combination, you can easily make this work. Look no further, guys, than 1-2 Punch. You see, hitting a target with nearly every pellet in your shot increases your melee damage. Considering you need to land melee kills in order to proc the origin trait, this perk right here is perfect. I'm already itching to try out my melee builds just for this combination here. On top of that, you can do a 1-2 Punch Pugilist combination where final blows with the weapon will generate improved melee energy. Considering you're literally going to be landing a melee hit and getting a kill with it, that's going to be obviously amped from 1-2 Punch, and then when you get a kill with the shotgun, it's going to cause that Curse Throw explosion, it's going to get kills, this is going to proc Pugilist. You see where the cycle goes. This strand shotgun is definitely something you can utilize in this manner. Granted, you could just utilize the weapon itself, whether that's with Golden Tricorn or Sword Logic or even Surrounded for that matter, considering you're going to be in close proximity of your enemies. You also have Slide Shot that's present on the weapon in the third column, which let me just say I love slide perks that reload my weapon. One of my most used fusion rifles inside of PvP is this Glacial Chasm with Reservoir Burst and Slide Shot. And I personally like Slide Shot more than Slide Waste because you can continually keep proccing it. It does have a small cooldown, but something that you can continually keep doing. Now, for my PvP players, you have Opening Shot present on this weapon with the combination of Fragile Focus. Now, you also run into a scenario where you start to max out range. Opening Shot adds on a hefty amount of range, and so does Fragile Focus. Now, before you write off Fragile Focus, understand that that too got a buff not that long ago. It will persist a tad bit longer instead of it just going away immediately the moment you take damage. Both of these perks are really good on that Opening Shot, right? But we do need to be aware of the range cap that you're going to be running into with both of those perks combined. And that's very dependent on your barrel perk and your mag perk. But what this also does is that this opens up those areas for perks that boost your handling, which actually goes hand in hand with the lightweight frame. And keep in mind, lightweight frame shotguns got a buff not that long ago where they are more consistent. So shotguns like Wastelander, Reese Walker, they are feeling better. Now, I'm not going to jump up and say they're meta. In my opinion, precision shotguns are still the king inside of PvP, but I do believe Swordbreaker here can hold its own. Now, moving on, we have Fang of Ir Yut. This is an arc 450 round per minute machine gun, which we do not have many of. And there is a lot of trait combinations here that are beautiful. You've got Reconstruction, Rewind Rounds, Cascade Point, Bait and Switch, Target Lock. This is going to be a must-have machine gun for PvE players. Sword Logic is also present on this weapon, but again, that bait and switch buff in combination with either rewind rounds or reconstruction would be deadly. One of my most used machine guns right now is Commemoration, and its combination is Killing Tally and Reconstruction, which is a very good combination. What Fang of Ir Yut is going to allow you to do, though, is jump between both doing a hefty amount of damage to single targets to also just being an ad-clearing weapon. So whether you're rocking it with Sword Logic and just clearing a room of ads, or you're utilizing bait and switch or target lock, or you're blowing your load with Cascade Point, all of these will serve you well. Now, for my PvP players, I know we don't necessarily jump up for machine guns inside of PvP, but I gotta point out the obvious. Keep away on this thing is disgusting. If there's one thing that will hold a machine gun back, it's never really the time to kill, it's just maintaining accuracy. This machine gun with keep away, you could utilize that inside of PvP. Now finally, we have Fang of Ir Yut. This is the scout rifle that is also a rapid fire frame, and it deals strand damage. This is the weapon I'm gonna be going for hard. I'm trying to get the craftable roll roll right now. 260 round per minute scouts are some of my favorite. If you like things like Randy, Contingency Plan, Jaraka Raka, Acious Embrace, I think you're gonna love Fang of Ir Yut. It's got a lot of interesting combinations. For PvP players, you've got Keep Away and that Precision Instrument perk, which may be easier to utilize here on a scout rifle, say if you're posted back, right? Pretty sure you can actually chain the damage up to where you can get a 3 crit 1 body, which is very fast on a 260. But if you don't want to roll that route, you can never go wrong with a Keep Away kill clip option on this archetype. That is really, really good. Now, for my people that are going to be like, what about high ground? It states that this weapon gains bonus damage when attacking targets from higher ground. It also increases reload speed. Keep in mind, guys, this is not you floating in the air. It does not work while airborne. I know, my warlocks right now are like, what the hell? What's the point? No, it literally just means, are you physically higher than your opponent while not being airborne? And there's only so many maps that you could utilize that. Inside of PvP, it's also only a 10% buff rather than a 20% buff inside of PvE. Now, for my PvE players, I think a great combination would, of course, be Sword Logic. Reround rounds is also present here, or Rapid Hit. You also have Shoot to Loot, which Shoot to Loot should proc with that Curse Throw Explosion. Something I need to test. Maybe one of you can let me know if it does. All around, though, guys, every single one of these raid weapons looks impressive. I'm excited to get my hands on them. We will be farming them. If you're interested in getting a fire team for yourself, we have a Discord. Lots of folks are already teaming up, jumping into the raid right now. This is a low stress Discord. Everyone is learning. We'll also be doing runs with viewers over on our Twitch, so feel free to come by. Well, fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.